What would you do if you were kidnapped by a psychotic killer and held captive on his boat while he tried to feed you to a shark? That, my friends, is what Dangerous Animals is all about. I don't know how you Aussies keep doing it, but Australian horror is the absolute best, and Sean Byrne proves it again with this movie. But that's it, right? That's what the story is. A serial killer who traps people on his boat, and the way he kills people is by feeding them to sharks. I want to talk about this movie. I want to talk about everything that happens in this movie. In order to do so, we're going to have some spoilers, but we have to break this down. If you haven't seen it yet, it's streaming on Shudder, I believe, right now, and it is so much fun. So, like, shark movies, serial killers, kidnappings, these are things that are tried and true in the horror and thriller genre, and I would put Dangerous Animals probably more in the thriller genre, but seldom do you see all three at the same time, and that's what you have with this movie. Also, it's a twist on the traditional shark movie, because in this movie, the sharks are not really the things to be afraid of. It would be like in Halloween. Are you afraid of Michael Myers' knife? No, you're afraid of Michael Myers. In Friday the 13th, are you afraid of the sleeping bag? No, you're afraid that Jason Voorhees is going to grab the end of it and smack it against the base of a tree until you are deceased. The sharks are just being sharks. They happen to be the tools that this destructive, maniacal psychopath uses to end the lives of his victims for his own sick pleasure. And that's what you have with Tucker, who is also fascinating in the sense that, like, a lot of times when you dig deeper in movies like this, especially with the killers, what makes them so fascinating is, what do they say? That every great villain needs to think that they're right. And a lot of times that comes with motivations or exposition, backstory, whatever it is. In this movie, you don't have it, but you really don't need it. Some things you don't need to overthink, overproduce, overwrite. It's just as simple as it sounds. A psycho killer got a boat. He kidnaps people. He locks them up on the boat. He feeds them to sharks because he gets his jollies off on it. And I mean, he really gets his jollies on it. Not gratification, so to speak, but there's an added element that I found to this film that I don't know if you felt the same way, but I feel like show business is a part of this movie as well, because what Tucker likes to do is not only does he feed his victims to sharks for his own amusement, but he makes a show of it, right? He's got these big bright lights that he's got on his boat, and he lights the area, and then he gets his VHS video camera out. By the way, the VHS camcorder is the only thing in the movie that he actually seems attached to. It's the only vulnerability that he's got. When one of his victims grabs the camcorder, it's like she's finally found this thing that he can't live without. It's not just that he wants to kidnap these people and feed them to sharks. He wants to be able to make a show out of it and then to watch the show later. And in the movie, we see him watching the show later. In the movie, when he's talking to his victims, he's not talking about like, oh, you know, I'm going to get some kind of sick revenge on you. I'm going to make you pay for something. None of it. He's saying it's going to be a great show tonight. And in multiple cases, he likes to have two victims, one who's strapped onto a seat so they have to watch the other be eaten by the shark, which is the show. On some sick level, it's not just sharks, it's not just this crazy guy, but it's that show business aspect that has driven this guy insane, potentially. We don't know, because again, we don't know his backstory, and I don't think we really have to. Frankly, most of this 90-minute movie takes place on this old boat. And it's not a big boat. It's just that's where the movie is. To me, the movie has three main strengths. Number one is the premise, the elevator pitch. What would you do if a serial killer locked you on his boat where you find out that he feeds his victims to sharks. That's how he kills them. What would you do? That's the elevator pitch. And honestly, it's the whole premise of the film. It's perfect. It's a perfect elevator pitch movie. And if that sentence sounds appealing to you, this is your movie. If that sentence sounds like nonsense to you, that you're not going to get anything else. The second is the visuals. Visually, this movie is awesome. Not only do you, some of the sharks are CGI or whatever, and that's fine. But not only do you see a lot of kind of beautiful locales and you see a lot of Australia, but it's also just the contraption. The boat itself is so cool. Those scenes where people are being fed to sharks and he's got the whole show going. I mean, to me, the crane that lifts the victims up in the air. The victims have a vest on, they're lifted up in the air by that crane. That crane that lifts the victims up and then moves them around slowly and then dips them down slowly. The fact that this all happens so slowly, it builds to that tension. And like, once the crane goes up, you know there's no stopping it, but it's still going to take another 30 seconds before you hit the water, and you just got to sit there for 30 seconds realizing you're done-ski. Which I love. And I love just the seeing how big this crane is and how it all looks. They go to the wide shot and it all looks very big and very cool. The third strength of this movie is Tucker, Jai Courtney himself. Jai Courtney, becomes this part. He puts everything into this part. It seems like Jai Courtney, the actor, is having the time of his life doing this movie. Because, and he makes it. He breathes every last bit of life into this thing. To tell you the truth, the only parts of the movie that aren't on the boat are the kind of backstory of the protagonist, really. You know, we have a wonderful scene to start the movie before the credits that sets everything up, introduces you to Tucker. You know exactly what you're there to see. And then we start to meet our protagonists, the boy and the girl. They set up the love story. They set up everything you need to have set up in a movie like this to tell a good guys versus bad guys story. But the reality is, God bless them, I didn't really care about the protagonist. I didn't care about our heroine. I didn't care about her love interest. When he came to save the day, I thought there was a moment of excitement, but I didn't connect to him at all. If anything, I wanted to see more of Jai. I wanted to see more of Jai Courtney playing Tucker. Just his manic energy, this giant build of his, and the fact that he truly seems to be loving life. There's no sort of, let's go back and examine the mental illness or the psychological trauma or anything that brought him to this moment. It's just, this is a guy he comes across like he's living his best life, as psychotic as it is. He comes across like he gets to live his dream, and his dream is to kidnap young people and feed them to sharks. Like, that's a thing he likes to do. And he's living that dream, and he's recognizing that he's living that dream, and he's just having a wonderful time doing it. And seeing this guy, there's one scene where he's wearing some briefs and just a bathrobe over it, and just dancing, because I think that the scene comes right after one of the kill scenes, and he's just so happy with himself. And he got another one, and that's when you see the reveal of like the cupboard. You get the indication that he has done this many, many times, right? Because you see the cupboard and it's full of VHS tapes. When our protagonist is in the room and she's handcuffed to the bed, you can see as she's trying to write her name on the wall that at first she sees like one other name, and then she realizes that it looks like many, many people have written their name over the course of time, right? And, there's the old man who runs the dock that Tucker docks out of and stuff that becomes a part of the movie. But yeah, the whole thing, I wanted to see Tucker experience his joy and project his joy so he could share that with all of us. And look, and he didn't do it in the friendliest of ways, but it was still, it was entertaining, fun, fascinating to watch Jai Courtney turn this character who could have been very two-dimensional into pretty iconic for me. I loved what he did with it. I didn't care about any other characters. I did care about the old man who ran the dock. I thought I had sympathy for him. But I didn't really care about anyone else in the movie. So, take that for what it's worth. I thought interesting choice here because so many movies nowadays, like they're not shy about gore anymore. Like people don't really worry just based on the way film is distributed now. People don't worry nearly as much, especially on a small budget film like this. You don't hear about concerns over the MPAA and the ratings and all this stuff. So they end up, having a lot of gore. This movie, because they've got killers and sharks and people trying to get away from killers, there's not a ton of gore for what there could be. And what has become normalized. Like I specifically noticed. It's not a bad thing either. Like there's enough gore and there's enough like violence in it that it gets the point across and it's still effective. But it's like it's just what's needed. No more whatsoever. There is nothing gratuitous to me about any of it. No real nudity, no like explosions of heads and guts and all this stuff everywhere. Like, it's one of those movies that you can get your friends together. And even if they're not horror fans, like, you'll all have fun watching this movie. And I think that that's actually a strength of the film. A lot of false finishes in it. A lot of moments like that moment where Act 2 becomes Act 3 because we thought we were going to escape, but now we're in deeper than we ever were. That moment probably, 3-4 times. It happens kind of throughout the film. To the point where, like, it's not maybe as effective as it was the first time, but they're still doing cool stuff on this boat. They really, it seemed like they had the boat and wanted to use, like when they made, what's their face in the dinosaur? Tammy and the T-Rex. When they made Tammy and the T-Rex, and it was because, like, a guy had a dinosaur puppet that he could use for a weekend, and so they made a movie around it. Like, they really got all the mileage they could out of every little piece of this boat that they had to film in. And good on them, I say. I found this movie incredibly entertaining. Was there a ton of story? No. Was there anything that made me care about any of the characters other than Tucker? No, I didn't care about them at all. I didn't think about them. Honestly, in the end, if it had made it look like they were going to escape, but then Tucker jumps out of the water and feeds them both to sharks, I probably would have been even happier. In fact, matter of fact, if I could change anything about this movie, it would have been the bad guy wins, because he's the one that I cared about. I didn't care about anybody else in the movie except for him, and I really cared about him. So that's the only thing that I would probably change about this movie is make the bad guy win, because I would love to see another Dangerous Animals movie. I would love to, but you could do a prequel, because it seemed like he had done this a lot. And it seemed like he was doing this with sort of a fairly significant frequency. It didn't seem like there were big gaps in between his victims. So, yeah, I would watch prequels of this. I would turn this into a franchise. And even though you're like, you could make us, you could definitely do a sequel to it. Make it a prequel. Serial killer uses sharks. And as far as shark movies go, this is by far the most pro-shark horror thriller that I've ever seen. Even like Open Water, where really they just swam out too far and it's not the shark's fault. The sharks are still the enemy. The sharks are still what you're afraid of. The sharks are still the ones that look bad. And then, there's even moments in this movie where the sharks don't eat the people because they don't want to. They say that, like, usually in one of these movies, somebody on the dock or something would say, if you just stay still, you'll be okay. Sharks don't like to eat people. And then a shark just comes out of nowhere and jumps out of the air because it is so hungry for human flesh. But in this movie, no. No, it's a very pro-shark tale, more so than just about any shark movie that I've seen in this genre. So I recommend it. It's a good time. It's not overly thought-provoking. It's a 90-minute movie that, honestly, probably could have told it in 80. But still, it's exactly what it's advertised to be. What would you do if you were trapped on a boat by a serial killer who kills people by feeding them to sharks? That's the movie. That sounds interesting. Stream it. If it doesn't, I don't know, wait for my next video. If you want me to do more videos like this, hit me up in the comments below. Let me know that you're into content like this, because I'll keep doing it with everything that I get a chance to see. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you leave comments, make sure you do everything. And I'll catch you on the next one.